Welcome to Pop Culture Roulette for all your pop culture needs. We're America's podcast.
Oh, a little emphasis there.
All right, well, Jeremy is at Asen. He's been kidnapped by some cosplayers and forced into doing random weird things. And well, maybe one of these days we'll get him back, but who knows? In the meantime, we're gonna do what we always do when Jeremy's not around, and we're gonna go sports. But this time we're gonna go OT with JD.
All right, welcome to the OT with JD. I am your host, Justin. As always, today I have a special guest, Nicholas from Pop Culture Roulette. How are you doing today, Nicholas?
Oh, it's been a very interesting week. So let's talk some sports and get my mind off of it.
Yeah, that best thing with sports is you can talk it with anybody, and it's a good way to forget the problems that exist in the world. So I figured we'd do the episode. We've had the draft, the schedule reveal, so let's talk about some of the Packers picks. We'll do a little rundown of that. Then we'll go, with our favorite picks, sleeper picks, head scratchers, and we'll move into the schedule. I don't know how much of the draft did you watch, follow?
I mean, I don't really follow the draft too much. I mean, I catch the highlights. I mean, I know we're not going to talk too much outside of the Packers, but I mean, what the fuck the Falcons were doing, who knows? Like, hey, we're going to
Yeah,
spend 180 on Kirk Cousins and then go draft a quarterback in the first round. Not just in
uh,
the first round, like number 8.
yeah, top 10. I mean, it works for Green Bay. I guess Atlanta wants to follow suit.
Yeah. And then, I know the Bears think that they've got something going because they drafted a quarterback, but I mean, we know what the Bears do to quarterbacks, so I ain't worried about that.
That's true. That's where the quarterbacks go to die. All right, first round pick, we had offensive tackle. I believe he plays left tackle primarily. Jordan Morgan out of the University of Arizona. I don't know what your thoughts were with the pick. It seemed a little lackluster based on what we had heard in the process. But I mean, if you're going to pay Jordan Love whatever they're going to end up paying that man, you need it. You need to keep him upright, and I think it's a smart pick.
I do too. I know a lot of people are coming down on it because it's they think that they're moving him from his one position to a less natural position, but it's still an offensive line position. So,
I mean, he did play left tackle all through college.
right.
They're thinking they might move him to guard, but I think he will end up playing tackle.
Yeah, I mean, it's a smart pick. He's a big boy. He's an offensive lineman. And like you said, they're paying a lot of money, or they will be paying a lot of money to Jordan Love. So, and I mean, the Packers don't bow to pressure. They're not going to make the big splashy pick in the first round. They're going to draft who they think is the best available at the draft, at the pick that they have. They always have under Ron Wolf, under the guy before. Who was after Ron Wolf?
Oh, well, I know there was Wolf. Who did come next? Anyway,
Uh, yeah, the guy
it
who
was, it
tra-
was
the guy who traded Favre. But and
Ted
now,
Thompson traded
yeah,
Favre,
okay,
but I know
yeah,
like Sherman was in there at some point for a
yeah.
little bit.
But I mean, Ted Thompson, Ron Wolf, they all did the same thing. It's the Packer way. You're going to take the best available in the first round for what you need, and they need offensive line, and he was one of the best available. And everybody's like, oh, they overreached. He should have gone. What did they have? 24,
Yeah, 25.
25, and people were saying like he should have only gone like 27. That's not really an overreach, is it? Like,
Right.
now
And
I
I mean, he will be wearing number 77. I don't know if you care about numbers, which you think solid number for an offensive lineman.
I don't really pay attention to numbers in the NFL, so I mean, I know that it's going to be harder to follow now than it used to be because it used to be like, certain numbers were wide receivers, certain numbers were running backs, and now they're kind of getting away from that. But
Yeah, to a point, they still have their standard numbers, but I get what you're saying. All right, let's move along. Round two, 13th pick in the second round, they took linebacker Edwin Cooper out of Texas A&M. I think this is a good pick too. He's a lot like Quay. They play almost the same position. But with the new defensive coordinator, I believe we've touched on Halfley briefly. I think he wants to play more of that attacking style defense. None of this, all right, we're going to give you four and then we're going to miss a couple tackles.
Hmm.
This is going to be, we're going to come after you and miss a couple tackles.
I mean, yeah, I don't know, I don't know much about this one. That's not one that I do know that they need defensive help. Not a lot because they do have a lot. I mean, they let a couple guys go. They traded a couple guys, but bringing in some new youth for the defense and attacking is really going to benefit the Packers. So, I don't think it's a bad choice.
All right. Pick round two, pick 26, staying in defense. They took safety Javon Bullard out of the University of Georgia. Another one, he played this last year at Georgia. He was their starting safety. The year before that, he was their slot corner for the year they won the national championship. So, I mean, he's got the versatility to play all over the field, which is something they need.
And he played Georgia. He played for Georgia, which is kind of like in the SEC, which is kind of like the NFL junior. So yeah, that's a good solid pick. Anytime you can get a defensive guy out of an SEC school, like that's especially one that's won at least one national title in the last couple of years.
Yeah, and most of the Packers' defense now is made up of Bulldogs.
Well, and if they all got G tattoos, all they got to do is like go get them recolored from red to green.
Yeah, or just stick to black and white, and they'll be good.
There you go.
All right, they moved to the third round, pick number 24, Marshawn Lloyd, running back, USC.
I mean, after going out and getting Josh Jacobs, it was kind of surprising to see them grab a running back, but at the same time, Jacobs is only going to be there for a year or two.
Yeah, 4 year it's a 4 year deal, but it's basically 2 years, and we'll see what the options are.
So, I mean, it's a good, solid choice to have somebody, and running backs get injured, so having somebody there to, back up, Josh Jacobs and some of the other running backs they have there's not a bad option.
Yeah, he's a good change of pace. Like Josh Jacobs and AJ Dillon are more of those power backs. And Lloyd's more of that home run hitter. Like he makes that one jump cut and then he just goes. The only issue I have with Lloyd is he likes to put the ball on the ground. I think in his college career he's had 8 fumbles. So I mean that's something to clean up. But other than that, I think that was a pretty solid pick. I think he might actually get more touches than AJ Dillon because I mean with Dillon and Jacobs, it's kind of the same thing. Jacobs is more explosive, but I mean, Dillon's only good for those 3-4. Dillon doesn't really have a lot of that big play capability. All right, moving down the list here. Round 3, pick 27, Tyron Hopper, linebacker from Mizzou. This one, he seems like he's a pretty good player. Everything I've seen, he misses a lot of tackles. But it was kind of weird seeing them go linebacker this early again in the draft after just picking up Edgerrin Cooper in the second round.
Well, where are the biggest holes on the defense right now? Because I know they traded a couple of guys away and then some of the guys got cut. So,
probably linebacker and safety, so the middle of the field, which they definitely attack the middle of the field going for speed and this speed and that downhill attacking style defense in this year's draft.
Well, because I know that's been the one knock on the Packers for a while now is that they can't stop the run. So, I mean,
yeah, I don't know how much that's going to change with them switching the defense too, to having the 4 down linemen now. So it might make stopping the run a little easier, but as long as they can tackle, I mean, don't know how many times last year we would see like Devontae Wyatt just bust through the line and then miss a tackle on either the running back, the quarterback. I mean, as long as they can wrap up and tackle, I think our running defense should be a little bit better this season. I feel like as I'm going to get later into these picks, there's going to be less that
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Fourth round, pick 11, Evan Williams, safety out of the University of Oregon. So he would be the second safety they took in this draft. He's he's another one of those players he's aggressive, physical. I think the one season he had five or six sacks as a safety.
Oh,
So he's got that more box safety, blitz off the corner kind of ability.
well, I do know that the secondary kind of got racked with injuries and other problems last year, so it wouldn't be it's not the worst idea in the world to get more secondary help.
Yeah, and with their safeties, I'm trying to think if who they brought back for this from last season. Anthony Johnson Jr., who was sixth or seventh round pick last year, might be the only returning safety from the Packers team last season.
So they need the help. So, draft it and hopefully they'll pick it up quickly.
Moving to the fifth round, pick 28, they took offensive lineman Jacob Monk out of the University of Duke.
The football powerhouse that's Duke.
Yeah. He's more of an interior. He played guard and center, played a lot of right guard and center. I think this might be our center of the future. I mean, with Josh Myers being under the final year of his contract this season, and he hasn't played great, but he hasn't played poor. He's just been kind of average, like replaceable level. So I don't see the Packers wanting to shell out second contract kind of money his direction.
Well, and with Bakhtiari finally gone, they're going to need some more offensive line help. So, I mean, if you got a guy that can work on the offensive line right now and then move him to center next year, then
Yeah. I think Monk's more of an interior, where it's that left tackle position for Bakhtiari, which I think that's going to be a lot of Morgan competing with Rasheed Walker. But I could easily see them starting the rookie. I mean, you just drafted this guy in the first round. I know the Packers don't care about where you're drafted. If you're not performing, you're not playing. We've seen
yeah.
that with other first round. All right, fifth round, pick 34, safety Katan Oladapo out of the University of, or no, out of Oregon State. The other one was a Duck. This one's a Beaver.
Ooh, drafting
Yeah.
rivals.
There's going to be some there's going to be some competition between those two in the safeties room. He's another good physical attacking safety. I don't know if he's had too many sacks in his career, but he's one of those that likes to play downhill and be aggressive, which is I think the theme of the we're going to see from the defense this year.
Is it unusual to draft three safeties in the same draft?
Kinda. I mean, the Packers tend to double dip and triple dip when they see a need. Like if you remember a couple of years back, they drafted Jamal Williams, then Aaron Jones, then I think is it Derek Mays, something, one of the running backs. So they took a running back in the third, the fifth, and the sixth round. And they just are like, all right, whoever wins this wins it. But yeah, it's a little strange to see them doing that, unless they might try to, I don't know what they're going to do. I figured maybe they might use Bullard as nickel. Could see less Keyshawn out there. And if they do that, then they're going to need that other safety. But yeah, it is kind of strange to see a team go that heavy on one position in the. Okay, sixth round, pick 26, Travis Glover, offensive tackle out of Georgia State. He's one I didn't know too much about, but from what I've seen, he plays a lot of right tackle, left tackle. So he plays more on the perimeter. And he's one of those big physical, just wants to throw you to the ground and lay on you kind of offensive lineman.
Well, there you go. More protection for Jordan Love, and that's what we need. So, got to keep that man upright and throwing the ball
Yeah, it's especially with that contract coming.
because we want to be the first franchise to have three straight Hall of Fame quarterbacks. So,
Are we the first to have two?
no, because you had
because yeah, Montana and Young.
Montana and Young, and I think Dallas did something fairly similar. But
Yes.
I feel
What
like
about,
they
I would say, do you think the Colts with Manning and Luck?
had luck not been abused and destroyed by by not doing what the Packers are doing right now and drafting offensive line help, it could have been. I don't know now with him retiring as early as he did. I think Luck is going to be one of the great what ifs.
Yeah, it was rough for him. I do enjoy watching the videos though of him getting like leveled and just being so nice and complimentary to the guys that just tried to kill him.
I mean, I'm not going to take away from Luck and say that he wasn't good. He was great. I mean, I just think because he got so abused and was sacked more than anybody in the league for like however many years in a row, like he just, who knows what his career could have been. I mean, when he was out there and healthy, he was great, but
Yeah, more often than not, he had some kind of ailment or injury. Speaking of quarterbacks, that's a segue. Round seven, pick 25, they selected Michael Pratt out of the University of Tulane.
I this at first this would have been my head scratcher pick because clearly you don't need one. But then I got to thinking about it and I'm like, wait, who is the backup in Green Bay? Like who do you have for garbage time? Or
Sean Clifford.
okay, so basically I think I just answered my own question. Um, I mean, you don't have anybody for garbage time. You don't have anybody if God forbid something happens to Jordan Love. So, I mean, picking up a quarterback in the seventh round, you're not going to offend Jordan Love by doing that because you didn't draft his heir apparent. Plus, so one of the things I was reading was talking about like the Packers love to draft quarterbacks in late rounds and then turn them around for like draft capital in a year or two.
Yeah,
Like,
they did that a lot before Rodgers got there.
yeah, apparently they when Favre was there, they used to do it all the time.
Oh yeah, with Ty Detmer, Matt Hasselbeck, Mark Brunell, Alex Brooks,
Yeah. So
Kurt Warner was there for a cup of coffee.
So yeah, I mean, I mean, if this guy goes out and puts on some great, running the second team offense or whatever, and figures out how to run the other team's plays so the defense has something to run. Put some good great game film that the NFL, the Packers can share around with other teams. Maybe he'll be a great draft capital next year.
Well, next couple years, I think he will compete right away with Sean Clifford. Sean Clifford didn't look bad in the preseason, but I like Michael Pratt better. I could see him easily winning out the number two job.
Yeah.
But the funny thing with Pratt is they gave him jersey number 17, which is currently worn by Anders Carlson, the kicker.
Ah,
So is that a sign of
that's the kicker who a lot of people were pretty angry with, right?
yeah, the only kicker we had last year that
Ah,
missed all those kicks?
yeah.
And then they signed Greg Joseph, the former kicker of the Vikings, who the Vikings signed after they cut Daniel Carlson because he kept missing all those kicks.
Ah, yeah, so I basically, I mean, it seems like if they gave Michael Pratt that same jersey, then Anders has been cut, and they just haven't told
Yeah.
us.
That or is this just like, well, you're going to wear this for now, but we're going to change it later?
Or oops, we forgot that this guy already had that number.
Yeah. I thought that was a interesting thing when I saw what jersey number they. Then with the last pick of the draft for them, round seven, pick 35, Kalen King, cornerback, out of is it Penn? I think it's Penn State.
Yeah,
It's
Penn
not
State.
University of Penn. They go by Penn State. The Nittany Lions.
Yeah, the University of Penn, that's an Ivy League school. I'm sure they
Yeah.
have a football team, but they're all a bunch of eggheads.
I mean, Duke's a bunch of eggheads too.
Yeah, that's true. But occasionally they do learn how to play football.
Just like Harvard.
Bunch of Southern boys will figure out how to play football eventually. I don't think Harvard hasn't had a national championship caliber football team since 1904 when they were like the only university out there.
Yeah, it was Harvard and some other
Yeah.
random no name, no known team. But yeah, cornerback, he plays inside and outside. So you've got that cornerback versatility, which I mean is pretty good. I don't know. Nixon signed a 3-year deal, but I don't know how much we want him on defense, if not just special teams, especially with the changes to the new rules with the kickoff, which is going to make football a lot more interesting, I think. I don't know if you
Explain.
see, did you
I
see
did
anything with
see.
it?
I did see that, and I heard some people explaining it to me, but I didn't. I was like, I'll pay attention to that when I need to. What was the exact change that
All right, let me just pull up something here so I have a picture.
because
So
it is it basically just like we don't want any kickoff returns anymore at all, or are they trying to actually get balls actually run back now?
I want to say they're trying to get more kickoffs to make the game more exciting without as much physicality or brutality, whatever you want to call it. So the kicker will kick the ball still from the 35-yard line, like he has for I don't know how many years now. The receiving or the kicking team will line up at the 40-yard line. So the opposing 40.
Okay.
The return team will line up at the 30. So they're going to have 10 yards between them.
Okay.
And then there's the landing zone, which is the 20 to the goal line. So the kicking team cannot move until the ball either lands in the landing zone or is caught by the return man. So now instead of everybody having that full 25 yards of head steam plowing into each other, it's going to be 10 yards apart.
Okay.
So it's either you go block that man or he might get a chance to get to the kick returner.
So is this going to encourage the kickers to not just boot it through the uprights?
I'm not sure which way this is going to encourage it because I feel like when you with like us having Nixon, and I don't remember which team it was right after this rule was announced, they went out and signed Cordell Patterson. Like if you have a good return man who's been one of the all pros the last couple of years, who likes to return the ball anyways out of the end, it's not going to stop him. But you know,
Yeah,
it's kind of, what?
because if you catch it in the back of the end zone and the people are already coming, there's no advantage to not taking a knee. But if they can't run until you touch the ball,
Either you catch it or it lands on the ground inside the 20.
yeah,
That way you don't just not touch the ball.
yeah. Well,
And it's not one of those things where they're like, we're going to try this in preseason and see it. The NFL's like, this is the kickoff rule for next year.
so we'll find out what they do in the preseason to see what they're gonna. I mean, and yeah, I don't know. It's very interesting. I mean, it's just, you know, it could go either. I mean, I guess if you have a team like the Packers who have a guy who can return the ball, it's probably going to not encourage the other teams to just not be like, kick it out the back of the end zone. That's not like, we're not going to let this guy come at us with a full head of steam running, and he's got some power going under him. But if you have a team that's not got a good returner or kind of a weaker returner, it would be maybe a little better to just, maybe pooch it instead of, rocket it out the back of the end zone.
Yeah. And I think by seeing that you can no longer do an onside kick except for the fourth quarter, and you have to declare it before you do it.
Yeah, okay, I do remember that because I remember a lot of people were like, but that's the point of an onside kick, is it's supposed to be a surprise.
Yeah.
Like like it doesn't help, like that's the whole point. Like,
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I'm intrigued by this rule, but I think it should have been done like this is going to be the preseason rule. Who knows? Maybe we're going to see Keyshawn Nixon house a couple of this.
I mean, hey, that works. I mean that really helped the Bears when they had Devin Hester and he was returning all those, kickoffs for touchdowns.
Yeah, kicks, punts. It didn't matter what it was. Hester was a threat. Although
So, I mean,
I did hear something that the Steelers had talked about making Fields their kick returner.
what really should tell you something about what the Steelers think about Fields already. Like, I mean, everybody's like, "Oh, Fields is going to go to Chicago, go to Pittsburgh, and prove Chicago how stupid they are." Oh, and I'm like, well, first off, he ain't starting over Russell Wilson, so stop it. Secondly,
Yeah.
like, Russell Wilson is going to prove that Denver was really bad, not Russell Wilson was really bad.
Yeah. Russell Wilson's going to be like Denver was the problem because of Seattle. He was fine.
Right.
I don't know why he left Seattle. Was that a contract thing?
I think they traded him.
Yeah, but was it like him and Pete Carroll and they were just like,
Yeah, I don't know. I just think Seattle kind of fell apart. I mean, they had their run where, they won the Super Bowl. They should have won at least two Super Bowls, but, Pete Carroll had to do one of the dumbest coaching things of all time.
oh, yes, throw the ball on the one.
Wait, we have Marshawn Lynch who could win the game for us, or we could throw the ball. Let's throw it.
I don't know if we'll ever find out the answer, but I still wonder if that was audibled by Wilson trying to be the hero.
I've heard most of the things I've heard was Pete Carroll was angry with Marshawn Lynch over something, and he knew had he given Marshawn Lynch the ball, Marshawn Lynch would have won Super Bowl MVP, and he wanted Russell Wilson to get the MVP, not Marshawn Lynch.
Stupid.
Yeah.
Well, he can enjoy retirement because he's like 8. All right, I'm interested to see what you put down as your favorite pick.
I think my favorite pick is going to be that kid from Georgia. What was his name?
Javon Bullard,
Yeah, Javon Bullard. I think it's a solid
or
pick.
or do you
Um,
mean Travis Glover from the University of Georgia State, wherever he's from?
no, I meant UGA, the Bulldogs, not Georgia State. The
Bullard the Bulldog.
Yeah. Um, I mean, maybe I just think too highly of the SEC, or at least that side of the SEC, Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, Florida. I mean, those are just bigger. I mean, it wouldn't happen, but I think if you took, like an Alabama team from a couple years ago when they were just bull running the NCAA against, some of the, 1-5, 1-15, 2-14 teams of the NFL, like they maybe could have put a run for their money. I mean, the SEC is just different football. I mean, it is. So, I mean, it's a solid pick, and the corners, the nickel, like those guys really kind of hurt the Packers last year.
Yeah, they
You
did.
know, so I think of all the picks, he has the potential to step up and be the most immediate, you know,
The
not
highest impact as a rookie.
highest impact as a rookie. Just mainly because like the offensive linemen, no matter how good they aren't we don't know what they do. Like we just, we know when they don't fuck up, but we don't know when they're doing their job well. Like, it's like
That one of the things where if you know an offensive lineman's name, they've done something wrong kind of situation.
right. I mean, for every Jeff Saturday and who was that guy for Cleveland who was out of the Wisconsin boy out of Cleveland?
Joe Thomas.
Yeah, Joe Thomas. Yeah. I mean, for every Joe Thomas, there's like 150 other guys that we don't know the name of. Those
Well,
those we don't. You know the name
us,
of pretty much every NFL player that's on a
some way or
current
another.
roster. Yeah.
Most
Um,
of the Packers.
yeah. But I mean, we just offensive linemen, the middle inside defensive guys, the defensive tackles, maybe not the linebackers or the secondary. We don't know them either. Those guys but their jobs are very important. If they weren't doing their job well, i.e., the conversation we just had about Andrew Luck, like you
Yeah.
know, so as long as Morgan does his job and Jordan Love is upright and healthy at the end of the year, then obviously that's a huge impact. But I think that Bullard has a chance to really make a name for himself in with a new defensive coordinator, a new defensive stat. Like it could. Yeah, I could be wrong, but
He was my number two. So my favorite pick is Edgerrin Cooper. With all like the mock drafts and everything I do every year, he was one of the guys I would consistently try to draft. I think him next to Walker is going to be like the perfect pairing. These are two fast, physical, downhill attackers. And one of Cooper's strengths last year at Texas was his ability to blitz.
okay.
Like he led Texas A&M in tackles for loss, sacks. I think he had 9.5 or 10 sacks last season as a middle linebacker. So I mean, he knows how to like, get skinny and get through that alley. I I think there's a good chance that he might be the defensive rookie of the year.
Oh, wow.
Like I have that kind of opinion on him. And but like we said, we don't know what they're going to do till they get on the field.
Right. And it and
Well,
it and most drafts it needs another 3 or 4 years before we really know what this draft class is, really have done anyway. So
yeah, it takes a couple years to judge them. You can't be like, oh, well, this guy's a bust because he didn't figure it out after a season. Head scratcher pick.
I mean, nothing really steps out to me as a head scratcher. I guess maybe not so like a pick overall, but three safeties and a corner. So like four guys that are kind of playing the same general position. Like that just seems like a lot, especially when there were other needs, like kicker.
I mean, they have three kickers right now
Oh, okay,
on
because
the
I mean
roster.
they only
They
had one. They only had one last year, so
Yeah, they have Anders Carlson. Then they brought in Greg Joseph, who was with
you
the
said the
Min
Vikings.
the
So
Minnesota Vikings, and undrafted. Let's see if I can find him on here. Kicker Jack Podlosny out of the University of Georgia. And it looks like they have another kicker on their invitee, Alex McNulty.
Oh, okay.
So right now
And
they got four and a Georgia boy.
and I know that like unless it's like a Sebastian Janikowski, you really don't want to waste a draft pick on a kicker anyway. So, I get it. But it seems like that's a lot of guys for one position. But,
Yeah, true.
so
The only thing I see with that is I hope Jair stays here, but like Stokes' contract is up and you might want Nixon to be, or Stokes is up after the end of the season. And Nixon, you might just want him to be your kick returner. So could be like a kind of we're planning for the future thing because we know Green Bay likes to draft
yeah, that's true.
for the future, not for the now. Mine is Tyron Hopper, the line. Like they just took Cooper and they have Quay and they have McDuffie. I think going and some of it too is just drafting him in the third round. Like there's other players I think we could have got in the third round that could be more of an immediate impact, but I don't know. That was my head scratcher pick. Is like you just drafted one. You drafted Quay in the first round 2 years ago, I believe it was,
Yeah, that sounds right.
because Van Ness was last year. Yeah, so 2 years ago you took a linebacker and you took another one. That one was my head scratcher for that reason. All right, give me your sleeper,
The running back. What was it? We just had that list
Mar
for.
Marshawn Lloyd.
Yeah, Marshawn Lloyd. I mean, he's got a quality name because we know running backs named Marshawn are quality.
Yeah,
Um,
he wears number 32 if that matters for
no. Um, I just, I mean, I still like AJ Dillon. I just don't, but Josh Jacobs is kind of a rental. I mean, I know they gave him a 4-year deal, but I mean, I kind of look at him as a rental, so I feel like this is maybe the pick for the future. But if you're saying that because Jacobs is more of a punisher, he's a kind of a downhill guy, and I know that's what Dillon is. I mean,
you.
Quadzilla, you know. So, having a finesse guy, it's all that was what made Aaron Jones and Dillon great, is that you had one doing one and one doing the other. That's what made Tampa so good back in the day when they had oh, what was that big guy? The fullback.
Yeah. Brandon Jacobs?
No, the big oh, what was
Because I know they had the two with Jacobs, and I can't think of the other one. The one that instantly came to my mind, though, when you said that was Atlanta in the early 2000s with TJ Duckett and work done.
yes. Yeah, having the two running backs that were kind of complementary to each other. You had one when you're like, I need punishment because I only need 2 yards, 3 yards. And one, I need a guy who can get in the open field and make people break their ankles trying to tackle.
Yeah, I think that's a very valid thing to expect out of these two. A little fun Josh Jacobs fact for you. He has never had a receiving touchdown in his career.
About time to change that.
Yeah. For me, I have two for sleepers. One is Kalen King, the cornerback out of Penn. With everyone's way too early mock drafts that they do, at the end of last college season, like right after the draft where we took Van Ness, King was talked about as being a first, second round corner, and then just had a terrible season. So he fell all the way to the seventh. So I think with that chip on his shoulder and coming to the NFL, and I mean the Packers give undrafted cornerbacks and late round corners like Sam Shields, Tramon Williams, even Valentine last year. He'll have every chance he needs to succeed. So I could see him even making an impact this year. And the second one is Monk. Like I said when we talked about him briefly, I think he's going to be the future center. Like as probably next season, I could see Jacob Monk being our center.
Okay, yeah. I mean,
All right, then well, let's see. We had the schedule release. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at the Packers schedule.
I have had a
What
chance to look at it.
was this the most you've looked at the draft this early?
Uh,
Because I was like, let's do this kind of thing.
yes, because normally, like I used to watch the draft, And then like I got to the point where I was like, why am I doing this? Like I don't care. Like most of these guys I'm never going to see or hear from again.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean it's not quite like the baseball draft where like, it could be 7 years before you see or hear from that guy again because he's got to work up from rookie ball to single A to double A to triple A to, and maybe make the majors. And
Doesn't baseball also do the weird where they do that supplemental draft? So there's like two drafts.
there, I think that there might even be a third draft because I know there's like an international draft. But yeah, there are drafts all over the place, and then they draft high schoolers, and then they draft collegers. Then I think and then you get into the whole like the minor league system, which is weird in general because you've got they don't have high A or low A anymore. It's rookie ball, A, double, and triple A. But then you've got all the independent leagues like Milwaukee, the Milkmen here in Milwaukee.
Yep.
And then I think some of the other minor league teams around here are also independent ball. So, there's other places that they can pull from other than just their own minor league system. So it's just, it's hard to figure out where they're getting the players from and how they're getting them. And
Yeah. I mean, I've been following the draft pretty extensively these last couple of years, and so I have a pretty good, I knew who a lot of the players were, which is we've realized I have a problem,
yeah.
an obsession, if you will.
And the other thing, and I think this is why I don't follow the draft as much as I used to, I don't watch as much college football as I used to. I used to watch a lot. I just don't. I don't have time as much as I used to.
College football video game coming out this year. You getting it?
That might help me get back into college football.
Yeah. Okay, let's do a quick rundown here of the schedule at Philadelphia in Sao Paulo, Brazil to start the
Yeah.
year. That's an interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to think about that game. I just in Brazil, which is bad enough. I mean, I guess at least it's still Eastern time, so it's not like you're 5 or 6 hours ahead like you when you go to London.
It's what, two?
I
I
want to
remember
say
right.
it. I want to say, well, no, it's got to be two because Lima, Peru is Eastern time, so Brazil's got to, yeah, like it's not that different time zone wise. Like it's not crazy like going to London.
I feel
Um,
like it's not much of a travel either, like going to London, because it's just going down, right?
yeah, but
And a little over.
it's kind of far down. It's not I don't know. It's going to be harder for the fans to get there than the players.
Yeah. I wonder if there's any players that don't have passports there. I'll be like, oh crap.
Yeah, I'm sure the NFL figured that out when they scheduled it, or the teams they were like, basically, as soon as you draft these kids, you need to start working
Wink,
on getting them a passport, and
wink, 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 nudge, nudge. Go get a passport.
yeah, yeah, and I'm sure that there's 53 men on a roster
Um, yeah, on the active.
on the active roster. I'm sure there's going to be one or two that they're like, yeah, this guy is not allowed to make the trip because of whatever, because I know sometimes when teams go to Canada, there's a guy here or there that they're like, yeah, he can't come with
He,
the team.
he, he can't go, can't travel.
So, but that's why you've got the practice squad because you can just sign them up for the practice squad for the day.
That's true. Okay, home opener week 2 versus the Indianapolis Colts.
That's a win.
That's a win. I I'm intrigued by the Colts. Anthony Richardson, if that dude can stay healthy, I think he'd be a above average quarterback, but we haven't seen it.
Yeah,
Week 3 at Tennessee.
that's probably a win.
Yeah,
I know Tony's not gonna want to hear it, but
he would probably agree. That franchise is a mess. He
yeah.
might be the first to tell you that.
You guys gonna go to that game?
I'm trying. I'm trying to see if he wants to. He's up in the air. That's kind of my plan. I'll go stay with my sister for a while. I think tickets are $200 that I'm finding, like the cheapest ones.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's between 180 and like 215. Week 4 versus Minnesota.
I don't know. I That team just had a massive amount of turnover, and they let Kirk
Kirk
Cousins
Cousins is
go.
gone. JJ McCarthy coming in.
Yeah, and I know that McCarthy just won a national title in Michigan, but I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I want to say that early in the season, the Vikings would not have had a chance to really get their feet underneath them just yet. Um, so
Aaron Jones revenge game
that is true. Aaron Jones is going to be out
i-
for revenge,
if he's not out for injury.
right? Um, uh, I'm going to say that's probably a win.
Okay, week 5 at the Rams.
Is Stafford going to be healthy this year?
Um, I think so. It's pretty
Is
early in the year, so he still might be upright.
is this the Rams from last year or the Rams from 2 years ago? Because if it's the Rams from last year, that's an easy win.
Well, I mean, Keenan Allen's gone, Austin Eckler's gone. Never mind, they were on the Chargers. I don't think the only thing I know the Rams really lost was Aaron Donald retired.
I mean, that's a big presence to miss in the middle.
I mean, they're still gonna have Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua.
Yeah.
Can't think of who the running back is.
I guess it all depends on whether or not Stafford's healthy and playing. Because, I mean, if you got a good quarterback in Stafford with those, because those, I mean, Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp put up great numbers last year without having a good quarterback.
Yeah, for most of the year. So that's gonna be an interesting one. And it going against McVay.
Yeah. And he kind of knows the mind of LaFleur.
Yeah.
So yeah, that could be a loss. That one is not a guaranteed win.
Week 6 versus Arizona.
That's a bye week, right? Like they don't.
I I
I
don't
mean,
even know. I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr. should be a stud.
yeah, but he's not. Wide receivers are great if you have a quarterback who can throw the ball.
Depends on Kyler Murray if he's healthy or if he's hurt.
Even if he's healthy, I don't think that highly of Kyler.
Is it because like 5'5"?
I mean, that doesn't
I
help.
don't know if that's right. I could just be being mean to Kyler Murray.
I mean, I think he might be taller than 5'5", but I don't. He is short. Yes, he also doesn't know how to uh, read a playbook.
Oh, he's 5'10".
Okay,
It's listed. Yeah,
so
that's gonna I don't know how I feel about that. I think that should be a win though. Should be a
yeah,
good game.
that should be a win.
Versus Houston.
That could be a bad game for the Packers if that defense hasn't figured out how to keep the run in check by then.
Yeah. The thing I thought was weird with that one is well, like it's a noon game. I thought for sure that'd be like a primetime game based on both of them with the up and coming young quarterbacks. Good thing though, it's in middle October, so it could be with Wisconsin weather. You never know what you're going to get.
Right. Um, but yeah, that the Texans look like a team towards the end of last year that looked like a team that was heading in the direction of being a really good, solid football team. And that quarterback is looking real good.
CJ Stroud.
Yeah, CJ Stroud, he's
Yeah.
looking. So I don't, that one, that one. I mean, I guess we can't say the Packers are going to win every game. So I think that could
We
be.
can.
Well, I mean, yeah, we can, but that one could be a loss. I mean, that one could be a rough game.
And then the next game, I don't even know what week I'm in, so I stopped counting weeks. Week 8 at Jacksonville.
I don't. I have no.
I do like that it's later in the year because normally it seems like we get Jacksonville week 1, week 2. So we're wearing our dark greens down there. And I mean, granted, I think it's still warm in Jacksonville in late October,
It can be
but not as bad as Jacksonville in early September.
correct.
Never been there, but I'm assuming you know Florida weather.
Yeah, and honestly, at that time of year, it could be really, really rainy.
Oh,
You're towards the tail end of hurricane season.
all right, so they could be playing in pea soup. Could be one of those soggy field. I don't know how that field is because that's outdoors. That one's not an indoor
Yeah, that
stadium.
that's not it. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Jacksonville is a confusing team to figure out. They've got a great quarterback. They've got a pretty decent head coach.
Yeah, Doug Peterson still coaching.
And clearly that team was not as bad as they were under what's his name, Urban Meyer. Because they did some things after they fired Urban Meyer, and then they made some noise in the playoffs. Not last year, but the year before.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're not a bad team, but they're really uneven. Like they're hard to figure out. Like they don't. You know,
Yeah,
they've got
there's
they,
games where Lawrence will throw for 303 touchdowns, and then there's other games he throws 4 picks.
yeah. So I mean, the you just never know with Jacksonville. I'd like to say it's probably a win, but you know,
Yeah, it's hard to tell with that. Week 9, home versus Detroit. I mean,
I miss the days when Detroit was just a guaranteed win.
when they were bad, yeah.
Um, but now that the knee biter is the coach,
Yeah,
yeah,
Dan Campbell.
now that he's got them believing and actually has that city believing they can win a football game. It's hard to. Oh man.
Yeah, Detroit's tough. I think I've seen something, I don't know if it's right or not, that they only play 3 games outdoors this year for Detroit. Well, because their stadium's indoors.
Oh
And then with the rest of their schedule, it's mostly indoor teams. I was
yeah,
like, that's crazy.
yeah, that is crazy. I mean, you would. I'm gonna say because the weather in November for, but it's not like Detroit is in a cold weather city, but they do play indoors, so weather could affect them in ways that it won't affect Green Bay. But still, like I don't look at it. I don't look at Detroit as the easy win as I used to.
Yeah, it used to be Detroit, Chicago W's, Minnesota tough, and now those is kind of switched. Finally get our bye week, week 10, and then immediately after the bye, so week 11 at Chicago.
So a second five, got it.
It's like a back-to-back bye. We don't know what Caleb Williams and Roma Dunze are going to be, but I still think the Bears are just
They're gonna
going to
be
be the
awful.
Bears.
They're gonna be awful. I mean, I saw a lot of Bears fans going, "We're gonna be 14-3 this year. We're gonna go to we're gonna be a Super Bowl team." It's like, guy, first off, rookie quarterback has never taken a team to the Super Bowl. He's come close a couple times, but he's never done it. So let's bring that down.
Pump the brakes.
And Caleb Williams was drafted number 1 because of what he did 2 years ago, not what he did last year.
I don't know if it was last year or 2 years ago that they lost the bowl game to seventh round quarterback Michael Pratt of the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, so hmm,
Um,
I'm not sold on Chicago and what they drafted. I
I mean,
think that team's just a
in
complete
theory, they
mess.
had a good draft. On paper, that draft was good. Except I don't know why they drafted a punter in the fourth or fifth round because they're the Bears.
Yes, because of the Bears.
Week 12 versus San Francisco.
That has never gone well for Green Bay.
No,
Granted,
Shanahan is the boogeyman.
yes, but
It's in Green Bay,
it's in Green Bay
late November.
in and later in the day too.
Yep.
So, but San Francisco is just so damn good. Like they just, yeah. I mean,
That's a tough one.
yeah.
All right, then the Packers will host the Thanksgiving game, one of their first 5 primetime games in a row. I don't know if you saw that when you were looking at it,
I did,
which is crazy.
yeah, and I think that is probably why the Texans game is not prime time because the Packers already had a bunch of primetime games.
Well, they can flex one of these ones out. But
Yeah,
Min versus the Dolphins. Dolphins coming up to Green Bay on Thanksgiving.
that is a win. The Dolphins do not know how to play in cold weather. They've never known how to play in cold weather. Thanksgiving night in Green Bay is gonna be cold.
Yeah.
You know,
And Tua might be hurt. We never know.
Tua. I mean, I'm not going to speak ill of Tua, but he does not play well in cold any more than the rest of that team does. So, outdoor in November, Thanksgiving night. Yeah,
I think the only one on that team that might be decent and cold is Tyreek Hill, just from his time in KC.
yeah. But if the rest of the team can't get their job done,
Week 14, another Thursday night game at Detroit. Back-to-back Thursday games.
I hate it. I mean,
Because it's Thursday?
yeah, I hate Thursday games in general, except for Thanksgiving. I don't know. I don't like it. I think that could be a letdown game because you're going to be coming off of a huge win against the Dolphins, which is kind of an expected win, and then you got to go play Thursday night in Detroit.
In Detroit. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't like it either.
I mean, I think I think conservatively it might be a split against Detroit this year. Each team winning at home.
Yeah, that sounds about right. We're going to move on to week 15, I believe it is Sunday night at Seattle. This one kind of confused me as a primetime game. Like
It does.
I don't see Seattle being a contender or a powerhouse like Houston is. So why is that a primetime with Seattle?
Yeah,
In Seattle.
I'm wondering if a game that late in the season isn't going to be flexed out of prime time because not because Green Bay is not going to be very good, but because Seattle is going to be not so good.
Yeah, I don't know what the starting point for the schedule of when they can flex. Because
I
I'm
know it's
assuming
getting
there's a certain week where it's like, okay, after week 7, don't know if
yeah,
that's right. We can start flexing.
yeah. I know it's definitely by that point of the season though.
Another one, the next one kind of also baffled me. Monday night versus New Orleans. Why is that one a Monday?
I don't know, but Monday night games never get flexed, right?
I don't think they do. I think just times, not days, get
Okay.
flexed.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So like
Unless
be,
weather or something crazy.
because the Seahawks game is a Sunday game, you could flex it to 1 o'clock and move somebody else to,
Sunday
a
night.
Sunday night. But yeah, I don't get it because the Saints are not good. They're not going to get better.
No, oh yeah, Derek Carr's the quarterback.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a weird one. Okay, Sunday, December 29th at Minnesota.
Well, by that point of the season, we'll definitely know how bad the Vikings are.
Yeah.
And see, this is where it gets interesting because if the Packers already have the playoffs, lined up and already, in hand at that point, even though they're division rivals, they might not try as hard or play some of the starters or play as long. So, but if the Packers also need to win that game to guarantee some sort of playoff seeding or like a number one or, home games, at least for the first round or two, they could just go into Minnesota and destroy Minnesota just for fun.
I feel that way with the last
Two
4 games.
games?
The last
Oh,
four.
oh,
Seattle,
okay.
New Orleans, Minnesota, and Chicago. Like if they're battling for a 2 seed, a 1 seed, or even the wild card for some reason, that stretch of games right there, like
Yeah, I mean,
all easily winnable.
yeah, if they're really battling for a one seed, that the last 4 games of the season definitely are super beneficial to the Packers, where somebody else might have a much harder schedule going into that.
Like I just pulled up San Francisco just for reference because they're always one of the top seeds.
Yeah, absolutely.
Their last 4 games are Rams, so at home versus the Rams, road versus the Dolphins, home versus the Lions, road versus the Cardinals. So that could be 1 and 3.
Yeah.
So yeah, those ones would be huge, which then I kind of already said. Last game of the year, which right now they have it Sunday, which that always can change, is versus Chicago.
Yeah, I do notice on the schedule here that
To be determined daytime.
it says January 4th or 5th, and then both times and network are TBD.
Yeah.
So, and I'm guessing that's solely dependent on if, what the Packers are playing for, because we know the Bears are just going to be playing for, who they get to draft in the, top five next season.
I think they do that with the entire league, though.
Oh, okay. Well,
They
I know
they do it to be determined for the entire last week.
doesn't the last week of the season, doesn't everybody start at like noon or something like that? No, that's baseball where
No,
everybody
I would
starts at
say
the same.
they still have their later games.
Okay, yeah. No, that's
But,
baseball where the last couple games of the season are all at like the same time so that you can't have people resting.
right, I'm going to spring this one on you because I didn't tell you to prep for this. Most intriguing home and most intriguing away game.
Most intriguing home for me is definitely the Texans
All right, same boat, same boat.
because I think that's going to be your first real big challenge of the year. I mean, the Vikings could be a challenge as well, but I mean,
Philly could be a challenge. They started off hot last year and then they peed down their own leg, so we never know
yeah,
exactly what they're going to do.
right. But I don't, and I know it's technically a home game because they're listed as the home team, but it's also in Sao Paulo, not Lambeau.
That's a Philly game.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So instead of playing in Philadelphia,
No, it says verse Eagles.
it says at Eagles.
Oh,
We have we have the ninth home game this year.
I'm the schedule I'm looking at says verse Eagles.
Oh no, the Eagles are the home team.
Oh,
They
okay.
lost their game at
Okay.
whatever stadium they.
Got it. Okay. So whatever. It doesn't matter. I think the Texans, because I think the Texans, based on how they were playing, especially towards the end of last year, um, could potentially be a really tough team. And I'm looking at, Colts, Titans, Vikings, Rams, Cardinals. It's not a cupcake. It's not but it's not like a killer schedule. It's very easy that you've only got one or two losses going into that Texans team without really having, you know, and depending on how the Eagles go, I mean, hell, that could be, I mean, I don't want to say 6-0, but I mean, if you're not 5-1, 4-2 going into that Texans game, that something's gone wrong to start the season.
Yeah, something happened.
Yeah. So that could be your first big test of the year to see how good you really are. And then for away game,
Like I'm the same with you for the home game.
yeah. I mean, I guess away game could, oh man, I don't want to say at the Lions because it's not really, I mean, I guess I mean, at Jaguars for the same reason because you have you don't really have any idea what the Jaguars are going to do.
I think the at Philly being in Brazil is the most intriguing one. I don't like international games. I've never liked them, but being the only game on a Friday night, because that's also weird. I mean, I think it's going to be interesting. And I heard something that stadium doesn't let anybody wear green because of a rival thing.
No,
So let's have two teams that wear green jerseys playing
I, I also
in the
heard that
stadium.
Brazil was going to demand like your last two or three pay stubs to enter the country. Yeah,
For
to guarantee that
players or fans.
for fans, like like it was one of those things that like Bob and Brian were talking about, and I'm like, that can't be accurate. But everything I read said it was, and I was like, this does not seem right. That a country could just be like, we need to see your bank account. We want
How much money do you have?
we want to make sure you can pay for stuff while you're here.
Can you afford the ransom?
Oh yeah, yeah, basically.
What are we thinking? Final record. I didn't
Uh,
write anything down, so but high side 12 wins for me. Because I'm thinking 12, 10 to, yeah, 12. I'll go 12.
yeah, 12 sounds right. I was just looking at it based on what I was, but
It's 11 or 12, right?
yeah,
And then there's that one division game where you're like, it could go either way.
yeah. I mean, it's that the years of like having a weak division guaranteeing 6 wins like are kind of behind us at least for right now. I mean,
Yeah.
because the Vikings are not bad. I don't know what they're capable of doing. They're in such disarray after what they did in the offseason. And the Lions actually
Hung a
beyond
banner for winning the division.
yeah, beyond all odds are actually figuring out how to play football in that city. And I mean, Chicago should be two guaranteed wins, but they're the Bears. They're it's one of those things. Like if you can't get up when you're playing, you can't get up for playing the Packers. You can't get up for anything. You
Yeah.
know,
They seem to always take one. Well, I
yeah.
don't know. I don't think the Bears have beat us in a while.
No, it's been a while, and I did love at the beginning of last year when the Bears were like, "We're finally going to beat the Packers." Oh, and then Jordan Love just went out and said, "Nope, I still own you." Or
Yeah.
no, the Packers still own you. I'm now the new owner.
Yeah. Ownership transferred.
Yeah. Yeah, 12 wins does not seem out of is there 17 games in the season now?
Uh, 8 and 8, 16. Yeah, 17.
17 games in the season. I mean, I think 13 or 14 would be pushing it, but I think depending on early breaks and a couple of those early games. I mean, if they jump if Philly doesn't figure out what they were doing after I mean, they started what, 8, 9-0, 10-0 last year and
Yeah, something like that.
lost like 9 straight.
Yeah, they went from being like the number one seed in the NFC to sneaking in as a six seed.
Yeah. So I mean, if they don't, if Philly hasn't solved their problems and they're still, you know, tripping over their own dicks, that could be a win. I don't. It's so hard to tell. I mean, we're gonna need to see preseason, but even then, like preseason is such garbage football that it's real hard to tell who's
Yeah.
actually, trying and who's winning. So, and if the Texans can't do what they were doing last year, that could be. I mean, you could start out the year 6-0, 7-0, and
Yeah, with the year removed too, there might be more. There's more game tape now on Stroud and
right,
everything, so he might not. He might have that sophomore slump.
yes. So, I don't know. I mean, or maybe we're just because we're Packer fans, we're giving them the benefit of the doubt in a lot of situations that we probably
Yeah,
shouldn't. So I don't know, but yeah, you're right. I think 12 wins is not
11 to
out.
12 is
Yeah,
I said.
I don't
I
think
think it's.
that's
Hmm?
I don't think that's too much to ask.
And I think we play a game on every network.
Okay, we got Peacock, Fox, CBS, Fox, NBC, Prime, NBC, ESPN, Fox. Yeah,
Everyone. So good
spreading the
thing.
wealth.
Yeah,
But
good thing we have access to all of those.
yeah, I mean, yes.
Yeah,
Well, because ESPN, even though I don't have ESPN anymore, they will play that game on ABC here on the local market.
right. As they
So,
should.
but you said it's Monday night, so if it's Manningcast, if it's a Manningcast game, then I'll be able to watch that one.
Who knows? Oh, that's Monday. I was gonna say, who knows? They might change it, but they won't change the day. That's that Seahawks game.
Yeah. And I got Peacock, and I have access to Prime. So yeah, I could watch every game.
Yeah,
I
that's
probably
interesting.
won't, but I'll watch a bunch of them.
I'll watch every game and I'll let them determine my mood for the next 2 days.
And it will always be fun. I guess we can probably look at the schedule now and see, what games well, there's only the one Sunday night game.
2 Thursdays, a Monday. Yeah, the one Sunday night versus Seattle.
Okay. So that's the only game we're gonna have to reschedule the general recordings for. So got that going for us
Only one. Yeah.
because I've learned not to try to force a recording during a Packer game.
Yeah. Doesn't end well.
So
All right. That's all I
that's
had for you.
that way. That was all of the. Oh yeah. Okay. All
Yeah.
right
We,
then.
we discussed our picks, favorites, sleepers,
All right. Well,
everything.
let's talk a little pop culture here, just to kind of round the show out and end it a little bit more, and
Back to reality.
back to the PCR side of things. You watch anything?
I feel like I did, but I can't think of what it was. What did I watch? I don't remember.
I watched.
I went from not from writing it all down to not writing it down, and I can't remember.
I watched two things. I watched for I don't well I was going to say it was for a reason, but we didn't. My parents wanted to go see Fall Guy, so me and the wife and my mom and dad went and saw the Fall Guy.
Okay.
It was very enjoyable. I mean, it was kind of dumb, but dumb fun. Like it was, you know, it
Yeah, right up our alley.
right up our alley. It was enjoyable. It really, if you're a fan of the 80s TV show, do you remember the 80s TV show
No,
or
I don't.
okay. You're aware of the 80s TV
Yeah,
show? Okay.
aware of it, but didn't see it.
All right. Uh, it is basically Fall Guy in name only. Like it is the barest like thread of attached to the TV show at all. Like it is like the whole concept of the show was he was a stuntman who was like always finding himself like he was like a bounty hunter on the side or like a private investigator on the side, like always finding himself trying to like help people and solve stuff. This was barely that. Like it was, he's a stuntman who kind of found himself sort of accidentally trying to solve a crime or do something. But I mean, it was fun. It was a fun movie.
All right.
Ryan Gosling is becoming one of those guys that like
Bearable.
he's becoming one of those guys that like he figured out who he was and like that works. Like, when he did Barbie, like it worked. Now he's doing Fall Guy and it worked. Like it just like he's not trying to stretch and force his way into something else like a lot of other actors tend to do. Kind of like Jason Momoa. Like Jason Momoa was like, I found a lane and now I'm just going to stick with it and I'm just
Yeah.
going to have fun and be who I am and not try to force myself. And
No, I found my niche and I'm sticking to it.
yeah, and so I highly recommend it. If you don't want to go to the theaters, that's fine. I mean, I think theaters are still the way to see some of the movies. But I think it's going to be streaming pretty soon, or at least, on demand. Highly recommend it. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
All right.
On the other side of the spectrum, the other thing that I watched, it just showed up on Netflix this week, Madam Web.
Okay.
What a steaming pile of shit. Now, this is where I get to say this is not me hating on DC. This is me hating on Marvel for once.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna be like, this is me hating on a bad movie.
It is. I am hating on a bad movie. This is every bit as bad, if not worse, than some of the stuff that DC put out.
Oh God.
It is. Now, you didn't hate Morbius the way most everybody else did.
Right.
It's worse than Morbius.
That's saying a lot for coming from you.
It is. It is astounding. First off, so Madam Web is a character that has never had her own series in the comic book. She's always been a character in Spider-Man or a Spider-Man related title. So you have now taken it away from Spider-Man and given her her own movie.
That there's nothing for.
Yeah, there's no Spider-Man in. You have put Spider-Woman in there. So you put Sydney Sweeney and you put her in a Spider-Woman outfit for 45 to 1 minute.
Hey.
Yeah. Most of the time she's just running around being Sydney Sweeney. You put Aranya, same thing, and then Spider Girl, or was Sydney Sweeney Spider Girl? Anyway, it doesn't matter. You had three different girls who were Spider characters: Spider Woman, Spider Girl, and Aranya. And none of them wore all three of them only wore their outfits in dream sequences, not in the real world.
Got it.
Ben Parker was a character, not Aunt May. You met Peter Parker's mom, who was pregnant, so I guess technically Peter Parker was in the movie, but they
Made
never, but they
Made an
never,
appearance.
but they never once said Peter because they are not allowed to. It was a mess. Dakota Johnson is at least in this movie, a terrible actress. Like she just was wooden, and the dialogue was just it was awful. It was so bad. It was like Wonder Woman 84 bad. But it was every bit as bad as like The Flash was.
Okay.
Like
Yeah, I watched that one.
yeah, I mean I will say that the graphics were better than The Flash, but it is my understanding of it is that it was so bad and did so poorly in the theater that Sony kind of finally put the death knell in the Spider-Verse that doesn't involve Spider-Man,
Good.
which is why Craven got pushed back again.
Oh, bad.
Um,
I'm still intrigued by that.
right. And I think that they've kind of canceled some of the other Spider, not like we have all these Spider characters that we're not going to have Spider-Man in.
Yeah.
And
This seems like it might be a bad idea.
yeah, and I know they're still planning on doing the third Venom movie, but yeah, I mean, so you have two Venom movies, Morbius, now Madam Web. The Venom movies are they're okay. They're not great. They're not they're not as bad as other stuff. Morbius and Madam Web have been awful. Like I'm putting Madam Web down there with like Ryan Reynolds' Green Lantern.
Oh God.
Like it
That's
is
that's
it,
way down there.
yeah, it is. If we were to redo the worst comic book movie bracket, I think for Fan Four Stick would still be worse, but Madam Web would get some real competition for just off.
Okay.
It's
That's
it's just it's trash. It is
that's all
and
you could say. It's trash.
and it hit number one on Netflix, like top 10 movie list. When you go to Netflix, it has the
Yeah,
top 10.
because everybody's watching it.
Well, because nobody wanted to go see it in the theaters, and now that we can watch it, and like a couple of the actors were like, "Oh, we never thought we'd see it. We're number one," and I'm like, "Oh, oh, you're not number one because like people are like, oh, we finally are getting to see the cinematic masterpiece. It's number one because everybody was like, oh, I don't have to pay to watch it. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, this was everybody's
Jet,
bad at.
you're number one in streaming, sir, in streaming numbers, but you're towards the bottom in ratings.
Yeah, I mean, let me
It's
just
like
see.
it's like having the first overall pick. That's because you suck.
Yeah, I mean, just real quick, Madam Web has a 3.9 on IMDb
Okay, so that's
uh,
39.
out of 60, just shy of 61,000 ratings.
Does it have the other ones we use for our?
I guess we can look at Rotten Tomatoes real quick. It's got an 11% on Rotten Tomatoes.
All right, so that's 50.
It has a 57% audience score, but for
The one we used to.
yeah.
All right, so right now that gives it a 50. And then if Metacritic has a score,
Right. Metacritic has it at 26.
76. So 76 out of 300.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
That's gonna rank pretty low on the superhero maybe. I don't know
Yeah,
if I have any more stuff over here. Yeah, that's bad.
yeah. So it is. Yeah, I know that Zack Snyder has a lot of fans. I'm not one of them. I will say that I think most of the Zack Snyder stuff is damn near
Awful.
unwatchable as well. But this is just I see no reason to ever watch this movie.
Oh, that bad.
Yeah.
You're never gonna watch this one again.
I mean, I say I'm never gonna watch it again, but I watch a lot of nonsense. So
That is true.
so all right. Well, do you remember anything that you've watched?
No, and now I went down my own little rabbit hole. So,
All right. Well, then I guess if you're the Atlanta Falcons, just remember, stupid never walks alone.
oh,
Comic books have been around for almost a century, and in the last 2 decades, we've finally gotten to see many of these characters brought to life in movies and on TV. On the Moving Panels podcast, we discuss movies and TV shows based on, inspired by, and adapted from the world of comic books. Join me and my guests as we discuss both the good and the bad from Marvel, DC, and even some of the lesser-known comic book companies. Learn what is and isn't from the comics, as well as our nerdy review of the movie or show. New episodes drop every Monday, and you can find us wherever you listen to podcasts. So join us for Moving Panels, and I'll see you on the other side of the page.
Life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and listen to an 80s Flick Flashback podcast once in a while, you could miss it. Do you love movies of a certain age? Do you miss the days of VHS tapes, VCRs, and the video rental stores? Does the thought of another 80s movie being remade seem inconceivable? My name is Tim Williams. I'm the creator and host of the 80s Flick Flashback podcast. On each episode, I'm joined by guest co-hosts to discuss one of the many movies released in the 1980s. We share our first-time watch memories, our favorite scenes, and even learn some behind-the-scenes stories about the cast and crew along the way. New episodes are released every other Friday on your favorite podcasting platform. So make like a tree, get out of here, and go listen to an excellent episode of the 80s Flick Flashback podcast. The ad is over. Go home. Go.